Hey everybody, we are going to get to the Gencon preview in just a second. But before we get going on that, I want to do a quick shout out to one of my favorite things in all of board gamedom. It is the yearly Uganda Village Board Game Convention and Science Camp. They are crowdfunding now to raise money to put on their 2024 edition. And folks, if you've never heard me talk about this before, it is absolutely amazing. Getting these Ugandan kids a big step up in life as they learn about science and art and other cultures around the world and get self-confidence. I mean, so much comes out of this, and it's all from playing board games. Every year they put on this multi-day convention where kids from around the country get to come and stay. So this is a convention that provides food and housing as well. So the funds raised are absolutely essential to its success. And you can help out too. I mean, just look at these kids. I mean, this is literally, you will find no better example in all of board gamedom, the idea of board games actually changing lives, improving lives. And you can help out with this. Just go to the page. I've got a link for it down in the show notes. It's right up there at the top. Very easy to spot. It breaks down all the types of games, what lessons the kids are learning, what their successes have been in the past. Did you know last year this whole system won the 2023 Gandhi Foundation International Peace Award? It is such a big deal. And the kids are learning so much. It's instilling in them a love of board games. I love one of the features they talk about here is talking about their own cultural board games that they can enter, a big, tournaments and win deluxe versions of the games they play themselves that are representative of their own culture, as well as being introduced to Twilight Imperium of all things. Look at that, playing Twilight Imperium. It's just absolutely fantastic. Folks, I can't stress enough, anything you can offer, you can just type in whatever you want. They've also got some backer levels if you want to actually put your name inscribed on some of the tables or chairs or whatnot. I put my money where my mouth is. I just backed this morning. There I am. By the way, if like me, you are a UK taxpayer, you can, when you back, you get a bonus automatically via gift aid. So there can be even more help you can give these kids. And I think it's absolutely phenomenal. I'm always excited to hear about it. Again, go forget about this R&R, or put this on pause. Follow the link down in the show notes. Just spend a few minutes, and if you've just got a few bucks or whatever your monetary system is, you could make a huge difference in the lives of some really wonderful kids. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And Ben, I am just continually amazed. It's put on by the Chrysalis Youth Empowerment Network, and it's just, again, this is the best of us. This is the best thing you will ever hear about all year in relation to board games, and you can help make it better. So please consider. Okay, let's get on with the show. Hey everybody, today on Rahdo Runs Through, I am giving you my Gencon 2024 preview. And hi there everybody, we're just a few days away from Gencon, and as is my yearly tradition, I figured I'd let you know about the games that I would do anything to get my hands on if I was going to be in Indianapolis later this week. I've got 10 to talk about, 5 that I've already played and that I can confirm are bangers. Absolutely phenomenal games, and they'll all be there. And then 5 more that I haven't played, but they are the ones that I am most genuinely enthused about. But before I get to my own list, I have a sad tale of woe. Originally, as we've done in recent years, we were going to be doing a Gencon preview on the R&R show, the live stream show that we do with Ruel, Ray, Chris, and myself. We were all set to do it last week, and then at the last second, Chris got COVID. No! So he had to step out, and we thought, okay, well, that's fine. We'll just delay a little bit. But we only had a tiny window to make it happen, unfortunately. Now, don't worry. Chris is definitely feeling better. He just could not make the one day that we could all get together to talk about our R&R top 12. So, here's the thing. We did actually come up with a list. So, while I only have 10 games I'm talking about today, I want to give you a bigger list. I want to give you a full 20. So for starters, I'm going to give you the R&R top 9. These are the games that Chris and Ray and Ruel would have talked about if we had been able to film the R&R show. So let's jump right into it, starting with Chris. Chris's third most anticipated game of Gencon is Charcuterie, the board game. Now, I have to admit, this is not interesting to me at all because it's an I cut, you choose style game, and these sorts of things never work for me and Jen. But there is no denying it is a sharp-looking game, and there's somebody actually playing it with the real Charcuterie boards. Okay, and I've already seen this appear on a few other Gencon anticipated lists as well. So if you like I Split You Choose, it might be worth checking out, but it is definitely not Jen's and my cup of tea. Alrighty then. What was Chris's second most? Oh yeah, Foundations of Metropolis. And this is basically what Foundations of Rome should have always been. A fast, efficient, elegant little tile laying game with tiles instead of super expensive miniatures in the original Foundations of Rome. Foundations of Rome is hugely popular. You can now get it set in the modern day instead of ancient Rome for a much more reasonable price, and it doesn't take up nearly as much space on your shelf. I am still bummed that this version does not include the co-op mode that was made available, but c'est la vie. I'm still happy that people will finally be able to get their hands on this very, very great design without having to break the bank. So it was a good choice on Chris's part. And then Chris's number 1, I very much agree with, Rolling Realms Redux. This almost made my personal top 10. I love Rolling Realms. It is one of the greatest roll and writes of all time because, strictly speaking, it's all roll and writes. It's basically every time you play, you get a random combination of 3 different roll and write mini games, and you play them to try to score points across 3 rounds. And this Redux comes with a whole ton of new mini games, tons and tons and tons of them. And so I'm very excited to get more Rolling Realms in my life. So anyway, that was Chris's top 3. And then who is next? Oh, Ray's top 3. Ray always has the most interesting choices, I think, which is why, folks, I know a lot of you are just Rahdo fans and you're here to hear my choices, but that's why I love having the R&R, because you get to hear other stuff that you would never hear out of my mouth. Like Ray's number 3, Mezen, which it's an abstract strategy game. I don't really know much about it other than, wow, it has a stunning look. And this is probably the one I'm saddest about that we didn't film the R&R, because I would have loved to hear Ray talk about it, because I'm sure she's done some research and she can say something more than, look how pretty it is. I mean, with this really cool, stark red and white aesthetic. Abstract games I don't tend to go for, but this one is a real looker. Ray's second highest ranked one was Moving Wild. Again, it kills me we didn't do the R&R, because maybe even more than Mezen, I want to hear more about this game. It's from Oink Games. You know what? I have never played an Oink game ever, even though I love the look of them, and this one just looks absolutely stunning. I know Ray is a huge fan of the line, so I'm sure she could have gone deep. But folks, if you like Oink Games, this one, according to Ray, is definitely worth checking out. I mean, just look at it. Doesn't that not look very appealing to you? And then Ray's top pick was Stalk Exchange, which is, I believe, a commodity speculation, buy low, sell high kind of game, but having to do with flowers. You get it? It's a pun. Stalk Exchange. And yeah, again, it would have been great to hear Ray talk about it. I don't really know terribly much about this. It certainly looks interesting with each player's board, or is that a communal board? I'm not quite sure. It looks like we've got hidden stuff going on. Sorry, folks. I, like you, wish the R&R could have happened so we'd hear more about it, but I just wanted to get the word out that Stock Exchange is something worth checking out, according to Ray, one of my favorite people in all of board gamedom. Okay. And then, but speaking of fact, my favorite person in all of board gamedom has to be Ruel, and his top three were, at number 3, Slay the Spire. And now, Jen and I actually did get a chance to play this the other day, and yeah, this is a good, solid adventure deck building game. I've never played the video game, I don't really care about the video game, but I'm aware of it, and it seems like it does a pretty good job of capturing the spirit of that. But just based on its own merit, it is a sharp, fast playing, elegant little deck builder. I have to admit, as much as Jen and I enjoyed it, I don't see this replacing Aeon's End for me anytime soon, because it is still a fairly lightweight, fast-playing game. A little bit too lightweight for me and Jen, but I do think it's brilliant. And of course, this is going to make a lot of people's Game of the Year list. So, Slay the Spire, good choice from Ruel. His second biggest one was going to be Middle Ages, which is a re-implementation of an older game from Marc Andre, the designer of Splendor, who I know Ruel is a huge fan of, and he really loves Splendor Duel. So, of course, he's excited about Middle Ages. Although, of course, we could have played it a long time ago, Majesty for the Realm. But the main thing is this game changes the drafting mechanism from Majesty for the Realm and does it in a completely new way while still having the same sort of set collection and whatnot. And it looks like a really great production. Now, if you want to know more about it, it just so happens a few days ago, Kimberly did a run-through on the channel, and you can go check it out. There'll be a link for that down in the show notes so you can see why Ruel was so excited. It is a brilliant design. Not for me and Jen, a little bit too cutthroat, but still a brilliant design from Marc Andre, one of the premier development designer talents of the age. And then Ruel's number 1 was going to be Comic Hunters. And I have to admit, I had completely ignored this one. I hadn't paid much attention to it because I thought, oh, is this Age of Comics? We already covered that on the channel. But no, it's a completely different game. When I saw Ruel had done it, I figured, I should learn more about it. And this is a very impressive little set collection game where we are, what do you call it? Trying to increase our comic book collection by either chasing after a set collection for a certain superhero or supervillain, or from different ages of comic history or whatnot. But the interesting thing is, you play through this game going through several different styles of auction, blind bidding auctions and turn-based auctions and whatnot for the different eras. And what's really cool about it is all of the cards in this game are original Marvel comic book covers, which is very, very trying. I can't believe they pulled this off. I have no idea how they swung the licensing on this. It's absolutely amazing. And I've long been a Make Mine Marvel. I don't know if I'd be interested in this so much. Because, if it weren't for the Marvel stuff, because often auctions aren't really that engaging as a 2-player game. You really need to have more players. Maybe that's the case here, maybe not. But if you're a Marvel fan like me and Ruel, you might want to check it out. Because honestly, folks, I don't know. This seems like a weird miracle of licensing. After this print run, who knows if it will ever be available again, because who knows how much these publishers must have to be paying for the licensing rights for all these unique pieces of art that are just stunning. Seems like a very, very cool choice, and I totally get why Ruel chose it as his number 1. Okay, so there we go with their choices. And now, folks, I am going to tell you about my top 5 must-have games from the show, which I have played. So I personally attest to the high quality of all of these, and they'll all be available. So my top 5 countdown, where are we? Here we go. Starts with number 5. There we go. Cafe and Expresso. Now, this is a reprint of a game I covered years ago called Cafe, and it is one of the greatest card stacking games out there. By card stacking, I mean you get a handful of cards that have little grids on them, and you're trying to stack cards on top of other cards to make certain patterns out of all the different cells, or all the grid spaces on all the cards. There's a lot of games out here that do this, but Cafe is arguably one of the best, because not only are you focusing on card stacking and making patterns that match up and whatnot, but you're also engine building and running an engine at the same time. This game is absolutely phenomenal. It had a very, very small print run originally. It was very, very difficult to get your hands on from publisher Pythagoras, if I recall correctly, but it's now been picked up for wider distribution by Mayfair Games. And I'll tell you right now, folks, they made an amazing choice. This game is absolutely phenomenal. And the original game is called Cafe. This is Cafe and Expresso specifically because it is now making available the 8-card mini expansion that I personally have never gotten my hands on. I've still got my copy of Cafe. I love it to pieces. I would love to get the Expresso expansion. Maybe I just got to get this whole thing now and then donate my old copy to the Dice Tower West Convention Library. I don't know. But, folks, you can check out my run-through. Links for it down below for everything I am talking about today. There are links down in the show notes. So you can watch me demonstrate just how phenomenal this game is. It's a great engine builder. It's a great card stacking game. It's a great card drafting game. Everything about this is absolutely amazing. And I say that as somebody who is actively turned off by the topic of coffee brewing. I actively dislike coffee. I can't stand the smell of it. It makes me less inclined to like it, but I love this game in spite of the theme. So anyway, that would be number 5 on my list of must-have games that I have played at Gencon 2024. Cafe from Mayfair Games. Okay, then where are we? Number 4 on the list is cities. This is, oops, I need to mute myself. There we go. This is the latest game from publisher De Vere, and honestly, this is one of their best games to date. I'm very, very confident this will make it into my top 24 games of the year. And you can go check out my run-through to find out why. But it's a clean, fast-playing, simple, and elegant game of city building in one of, if I recall correctly, either 8 or 10 cities around the world. And it's a very tension-filled draft that's really maybe at its best as a 2-player game. I'd love to play it as 3 or 4, but the draft is so tension-filled as a 2-player game. As we're grabbing tiles to be the foundation of a suburb of the city that we're building, like I'm building Mexico City right here, or we are grabbing the actual buildings of, the residential and commercial and all that we're going to build onto those tiles, or we're grabbing objective cards that will give us more and more scoring opportunities throughout the game as we keep building up, or we're grabbing little accessories that will add extra decorations as an alternative to buildings. So there's 4 different things we're drafting for over 4 different rounds, if I recall correctly. And from start to finish, it is incredibly tension-filled. This game is phenomenal from a phenomenal design pairing, Phil Walker Harding and Steve Finn. I don't believe they've ever worked together before, but if this is what they do when they get together, I want to see them work together again. It is absolutely fantastic. There's one fatal flaw with the game. It is not colorblind friendly. You can see down there the red and the green right next to each other. A sizable portion of the audience will have a hard time. They're going to have to get out some Sharpies and put a mark on all their green buildings or something like that. Unfortunately, it's one slight blemish in an otherwise amazing game that, like I said, is probably going to make it into my top 10 of the year. And this is maybe going to be your first chance to get your hands on my number 4 game that I've already played, Cities. Now, let's talk about number 3, Windmill Valley, which, for a while now, I've been relatively confident might be my game of the year for 2024. It absolutely blew me away. but it has been supplanted. I'll get to that in a second. But still, Windmill Valley is guaranteed going to make it into my top 10. It is designer Danny Garcia's best game to date, and he has been blowing everybody away ever since he burst on the scene last year with Barcelona and Arborea. And but this game from publisher Board and Dice is an amazing implementation of the idea of spinning gears that we first saw all those years ago in Zulk and the Mayan County. You can see my little windmill there at the bottom, where every turn I rotate that 1, 2, or 3 times to make different combinations of actions I get to do on my turn, while also focusing on raising or lowering the water level. Oops, looks like I had a big goof. Folks, always turn on your Klingon subtitles because Paulo corrects me when I make little goofs like that. Sorry. Anyway, though, you're focusing on keeping the water levels raised. Oh, by the way, did I mention we're tulip farmers in the Netherlands, in Holland? And so we're trying to, flood or keep our fields dry so we can raise, different combinations of tulips, sell them at market, ship them overseas, complete all kinds of objectives, and it's absolutely brilliant. I guarantee this is going to make a lot of people's top 10 of the year. It's certainly going to be mine. It's absolutely fantastic. Jen and I both love it to pieces. And Gencon might be your first chance to get your hands on it. Mark my words, folks. This is a big one. This is, if he hadn't already been, this cements Danny Garcia as one of the modern great designers. Number 3 on my personal list of games I played, Windmill Valley. Then we go on to number 2, Evenfall. Now, this actually made my top 10 of the year last year. In fact, actually, you can see, there it is, right up there on my shelf. Proudly, I put it in every single video. I love it so much. This is a game where we are controlling a coven of witches, trying to do, not scary witch stuff, but just, commune with nature type stuff. And it is one of the best card tableau building games ever. It is absolutely a phenomenal design, and I feel weird about talking about it because it literally came out a year ago. But I didn't mention this right up front, folks. I am using Eric Martin's, there's some more notes. I forgot to take the AI, also has workers. Oopsie. Always watch my videos with Klingon subtitles turned on, folks, so you don't miss those little tidbits from Ruel. Or not from Ruel, from Paulo. Anyway, though. So, Eric Martin, the head news guy of Board Game Geek, does an amazing job every year of coming up with a list of all the new stuff. Not everything, but all the new stuff that's going to be available at Gen Con. And so myself and pretty much all other board game media folks owe him a debt of gratitude. He does all this work and makes our lives easier because then we can just pare down that list of, I think there's over 500 games on it now, into our own personal tops. And personally, I wouldn't have talked about this because I actually filmed a run-through for this a year ago. I talked about this a year ago. So to me, it's old news. But I guess it's also had an incredibly small print run. Like, what was the other one I just talked about? Oh, Cafe. And so finally, this is going to be widely available and everybody will see what Jen and I got to see last year. Why it made it into my top 10 games of 2023. Rated pretty high, as I recall. It's going to be available. It's going to sell out. I'm telling you that right now, folks, because everybody who's played this game last year has raved about it just as much as me and Jen. So it is certainly something to seek out. Evenfall. But my number 1 most anticipated Gen Con game that I've already played has to be Spectacular. And folks, this game is absolutely spectacular. I mentioned earlier, I thought there's a good shot that Windmill Valley make it my top game of the year. Spectacular is even better. It is from the design team, Eilif and Asmund Svensson, the same guys who brought us Come Together, another top tenner of mine from a few years ago that has been all but impossible to get ever since. It is published by Chili Fox Games, and now these brothers, I think they're brothers, maybe they're cousins, I think they're brothers though, have gotten together to make another really wonderful, crunchy, deep, elegant, fast-playing game and Spectacular. Now, I've done a run-through for it. My run-through will be going up in a couple days before Gen Con, so everybody can see what Jen and I have already discovered, and this game is amazing. We are doing building up nature conservancies, trying to house lots of different types of animal types, but you've seen this in a lot of games. this game, we focus on the housing of the animals and, making good habitats for them, but also the care of them, the feeding of them, which is something that a lot of games tend to forget. Just because you've gotten the animals in, you're not done with them. You got to keep taking care of them. And so that is represented by a dual layered draft. Every turn, I am going to be able to grab either an animal tile. Let's see. An animal tile, which represents more animals coming to my conservancy, or a die, which represents the food and care I can give the existing animals. I'm going to grab one from this support area, and I'm going to grab one from my own, whatchamacallit, it's called my queue, my reserve. So I've got a bunch of dice and tiles that are unique only to me, and then there's some other ones on this support tile. And here's the trick. After I have chosen the two things I'm going to take, 2 tiles, 2 dice, or a die and a die, whatever it is we're going to take, we then, the ones we didn't take from the support tile, let me see if I can fast forward a little bit. If I can show it, come on, there we go. It's about to happen. I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to show it any second here. Come on. I should have queued this up ahead of time. I can't believe this. This is ridiculous. How long am I going to talk and blather? Oh, wait, there it goes. Right. After we are done, we switch. So this is a drafting game, a la Seven Wonders Duel, or Seven Wonders I should say, or Sushi Go. Except, unlike most drafting games where you're passing a blind hand of cards, in this game I can see what I've got to get now. I'm going to take one of them and give the rest to my opponent. I can see what my neighbor is about to give me, and I could start making plans about what should I take now, what am I going to lose out on because it's going to go away from me, and what is coming my way. So this is a drafting game where it's not closed hand drafting, but open hand drafting, and that so elevates the experience. This game, this might be my game of the year. It's a little too early to say. There's a lot of great SN games coming, but this is the best game I have played so far in 2024 because it's complex. Or no, it's simple. It's elegant. Its rules are really, really simple. But the decisions you have to make are so crunchy. You have got, every time you play, 3 different unique objectives. You have got like a half a dozen different ways you can score. Every single tile you place and every single die you place on every single tile, you are trying to, fulfill upwards of like a half a dozen different objectives with every single placement. And, I have not found a tile laying game this tension-filled since Calico. But this takes, the tension of Calico trying to get everything in the right place and fulfill all your objectives, and then elevates it with an amazing drafting game that's just about best of class. I said it years ago, folks. Come Together is amazing, and now I say everybody come together to play spectacular. Come Together has been, ever since it came out, it had a very small print run. It's been all but impossible to get. Chili Fox Games does not do very big print runs. They're doing this. This might not get a very big print run, folks. So if you have a chance to check it out, check it out. It is astounding to me how good my number one game that I've already played, this at Gencon, is spectacular. Okay. Phew. I'm not done yet, folks. Oh man, I'm still thirsty. Okay, so those are 5 games that I played. Now I'm going to tell you about 5 games I haven't played. But after spending, I don't know how many hours poring over that, preview list, which, by the way, did I not mention the Eric Martin's Gencon preview list? There's a link for it also in the show notes, so you can do your own research, and maybe add some of these to your wish list. And it's such a great, it tells you what booth these things are at if you're going to be at Gencon. But anyway, though, I'm now going to talk about my 5 that really stand out to me as, I'm not sure if they're must-have, but they're definitely must-check out. See them in person and probably pick up a copy while I'm there. So, have I got it queued up? Yes, I do. We're going to start, again, it's a countdown. Number 5 on this list of games I haven't played, but I would very, very, very much like to play, starts with Happy Home. This is from Alley Cat Games, and I'll tell you right now, folks, the reason this is on my short list, it's right there. Matt Dunstan and Brett Gilbert. Such an amazing design duo. Ever since I've played their first collaboration, I think it was their first, I could be wrong about that, Elysium, which is still one of the greatest card tableau builders of all time. But man, they had such a huge breakthrough success a couple of years ago, but it only recently got acknowledged. Where is it? right there, right behind me, Guild of Merchant Explorers. This game was absolutely phenomenal. Another top tenner. And so this is what they're following it up with. It seems like a lighter game. It is a time track style game, a la Thebes or Glenmore, where players move their worker around a rondel, and the farther they go to grab what they want, the more they give their opponents opportunities to take multiple turns. I always love time track games when they're done well, and it seems like, from what I've seen, they do a good job of scaling for player count, which often time track games don't do. But it's a game about running around the time track to grab different pieces of furniture and decorate a house. Every time you play, there's going to be a different common objective for different ways you are trying to make the happiest home. But I just love games like this. They're slice of life games just with a sense of joy and happiness. I also, in case you didn't notice from my previous list, folks, I love tile laying games. And again, Dunstan and Gilbert? Is that it? Dunstan and Gilbert. They are on fire. It's interesting. They've got another game that's going to be available at Gencon 2. And I thought about putting it on the list, but unfortunately, there's no information about it at all. So I figure, okay, I'll talk about Happy Home, because publisher Alley Cat understands you should put pictures on Board Game Geek and actually describe your gameplay. Never mind the fact that there are some lucky channels out there that have already gotten a chance to play this, because I guess they picked it up at the UK Games Expo or something. I'm very excited for number 5, because I love the theme, I love the design duo. Also, not for nothing, Alley Cat Games, they are a phenomenal publisher as well. So I've got a good feeling about Happy Home. Why wouldn't you want to play a game that's just about happiness? What is better? Okay, but now let's change tacks and go to number 4 on the list, Jekyll and Hyde versus Scotland Yard. Now, there's a few things that pull me in. 1, it's a co-op game. 2, it's a cooperative game with imperfect communication. 3, it is a game with art by the incomparable Vincent Dutray, so you know it's absolutely going to be amazing. 4, it's got a really, really cool theme, because as I recall, one player is Dr. Jekyll, the other player is Mr. Hyde, his other alter ego, the quirky part of his brain, let's say. And the two players are working together to stay one step ahead of Scotland Yard. So that's a really, really cool idea of why, thematically, we can't have perfect communication, because we're basically split personality, the same person. So, and if all that weren't enough, this game actually came out at Essen last year, and I know there were a bunch of channels. I didn't get a chance to play this, but I'd really like to give it a go. A lot of channels rated it very highly, including one of my favorite board game channels, Board Gaming Ramblings. They gave it very, very high praise. So that is reason enough for me to finally want to get my hands on this and check out number 4 on my, just look at it. It's like, apparently it's a cooperative trick-taking game, a la The Crew. And honestly, that's the least interesting element to me about the game. But there are so many things this has got going for it that I really desperately want to check out. Jekyll and Hyde versus Scotland Yard. That's my number 4. Now let's move on to my number 3, Adulthood. From designer Johnny O'Neill, I don't know him. Brotherwise Games, generally they tend to make games that are a little bit more in your face and not really for me and Jen. But I am always up for a game that is all about building the best life you can. Game of lifestyle things like Pursuit of Happiness or CV. There aren't very many of them in the industry, quite frankly, and I wish there were more. So whenever one comes along, I am definitely there. And this one seems to want to stand out from the crowd, because usually when these games are done, they're trying to tell the story of an entire life, from childhood to old age, and your final victory point tally is how good a life you led. And again, I love that. That speaks to me. Again, these are games that are about human joy and happiness. Don't get me wrong. I like, counting beans in Renaissance era Italy, and I enjoy fighting off waves of aliens and all these other things. But there is no greater theme than just a well-lived life and being able to see this come together. The interesting thing about Adulthood, that from what I've seen of it so far, is this one doesn't try to focus on an entire life. This just focuses only on your adulthood. Games don't, rounds don't represent decades of your life. They represent weeks of your life. Just trying to adult as best you can. Making relationships, getting ahead in your job. It is a worker placement game where, if I recall correctly, every worker you place is represented by these little hourglasses. So they just represent an hour or a day or something like that. So it's a much more granular look at trying to live a well-lived life. Just for adulthood. What does it take to be a successful adult? You have to find the best way to spend your time, money, and energy. Handle money wisely, live in luxury, work your day job, date a hunk. This is the kind of stuff I love to pieces. I love a game that tells a story. And of course, this is going to tell interesting and engaging stories. It'll be different every single time because of the choices I have made. It also has a really great art style. I don't know him, but they say in the description here on BGG that this artist, if I recall correctly, Tim Brierley, is actually a respected and popular cartoonist outside of board games. So I know it's going to have, featuring the art of Tim Brierley. It brings the highlights the joy and absurdity of everyday life. I love that. That speaks to me so much. If I could only ever play one theme of board gaming for the rest of my life, it would be this: a games about living good, happy, fulfilling lives. And then, hey, if it's got great gameplay, and even if otherwise hasn't always worked for me because they tend to be a little bit aggressive in your face, I'm looking at you, the dungeon games. This one, there's no hint of players messing with each other. So I am all in for number 3. I gotta check it out. I gotta get my hands on this thing, Adulthood. All right, then let's move on to number 2, Endeavor Deep Sea. And I am super stoked for this. And I know Chris is too. I'm kind of surprised Chris didn't put it on his list because he put it a few weeks ago. We did the R&R mid-year check-in, right? Where we talked about, hey, what have we played so far this year? What surprised us? What are we looking forward to? And this is Chris's game that he was most looking forward to for the second half of 2024. Well, Chris, it's here! And I'm looking forward to it too. I love the original Endeavor, but this has thrown away the era of colonization and slavery-focused subject matter, which is a good thing, and replaced it with deep sea exploration. And it looks phenomenal. Looks like it has an absolutely fantastic presentation. The gameplay of Endeavor has always been one of the best 4X games out there, and it was a 4X game that even a Care Bear like me could enjoy. And now it's changed to a modern science themed, which of course is going to be something I'm very, very attracted to as well. And then it just looks stunning. So I've been super excited about this ever since I first heard about it, and I cannot wait. I mean, obviously, it's my number 2 to get my hands finally on Endeavor Deep Sea. But folks, there's one that supplants even it. It is Ancient Knowledge Heritage. And by the way, I should say, this is the only game I'm talking about today that is an expansion. Everything else I'm talking about in this video are base games. But man, I could go deep on, there's a lot of expansions at the convention too. But I'm just trying to limit it to games you can buy. Not talking about expansions, not talking about games you can demo, with this one exception. Because here's the deal, folks. Ancient Knowledge at this point, if this is a game, a Civilization card game that came out last year that everybody has raved about. And I feel like I am the only board game media channel that has not covered it. I've been trying to get my hands on it for months now. I've been so desperate to try it because I've just heard nothing but how phenomenal it is from so many different things. And honestly, sometime in August, I'm going to do my updated best of 2023 list, because I did a preliminary best of 2023 on Christmas Day in 2023, and I said, hey, I'll be back in mid 2024 to tell you about the final. I have now played every game from 2023 that I need to evaluate to see if it's the best of the year, except for Ancient Knowledge. It's the one that has eluded me. And so I'm excited for Ancient Knowledge, and I'm also excited, I don't think there's any pictures of it, are there? Oh wow, there's one picture. Okay, Yellow, you're not really knocking us out. You're not really blowing us away with this picture. This is not put your game best forward. But anyway, I am desperate. I cannot stress how desperate I am to play Ancient Knowledge. But I'm even more desperate to play it with the Heritage expansion. Because the reason I passed on Ancient Knowledge last year, I had an opportunity to get a copy, and I said, I don't think so. Because about I forget, something like 15% of all the cards were attack cards because it's a civilization game and you can attack each other and steal from each other. I'm like, oh, all right, I'm going to skip it. And here's the deal. The Heritage expansion replaces all the attack cards with friendly interaction cards. Yes, yes, yes. So, while this is officially an expansion I'm talking about, I'm really talking about there is nothing I care about more because I need to play Ancient Knowledge before I do my mid-year final version of the best of, because I from everything I've seen, Ancient Knowledge could be one of the 10 best games of 2023. I just can't get my hands on it. So, and now that there's an expansion that fixes the thing that kept me from getting my hands on it previous, well, I'm even more excited. So that is why Ancient Knowledge Heritage. I'm so excited I broke my rule and talked about an expansion, but really I'm talking about the base game plus the expansion. Oh, okie dokie. Phew. Wow. All right. So that was that. But, folks, I have now talked about 19 games. And that's not great. I want an even 20, right? So, let's talk about one thing. I've talked about a bunch of games you could buy. I'm going to tell you, if there's only one game that you demo at Gencon 2024, it's this one. There's actually a bunch of games I'd like to talk about, but I'm just trying to have a nice even 20. Top 20 games of Gencon. That's just, it's good for the algorithm and stuff like that. So I'm going to tell you, if there's only one game, and this was a tough one, folks. There are 3 that were in contention. And if certain fans are probably guessing they know what I'm about to say, but you don't. You don't. The number one game that if you're only going to demo, if you're a Gencon, you're only going to demo one game, might I suggest you check out the Watches and Clocks of Hickory Docks. Right. And there's not much to say here other than, a very, very nice looking piece of cover art, quite frankly. But here's the deal, folks. I've been aware of this game. I've been talking about it for over a year. If you go back to some of my old Rahdo Talks Through podcasts, I got some advance. I got to see an early copy of the rule book for this. I got to see early, pre-production, prototype samples of what this game looks like. I am hoping to cover it when it does eventually. I'm not sure if it's going to Kickstart or if it's just going to go directly to retail. That I'm not sure, but I'm looking forward to covering it. For the first time ever, players are going to be able to get their hands on it at Gencon. And I'm telling you right now, folks, watch for this new designer, Robert Fix, because this game is freaking phenomenal. I'm not going to spoil anything. You can go back and check out. I talked about this at great length in my older episodes of my podcast. But anyway, this is a game that is all about, as it says right here, time track management. I love rondels. I love time tracks. I talked about it earlier. And the presentation of this game is going to be off the chart. It's going to be fantastic. It signals a return. And this is another thing that makes me so happy about this game. Publisher Elf Creek Games, for a while, they disappeared. And it looked like they were not going to make it. They were going to be another publisher that went under in the aftermath of the worldwide pandemic and, production, logistics, shipping nightmare that destroyed several independent developers. And it looked like for a while Elf Creek Games wasn't going to come back. But Elf Creek Games, they are a scrappy underdog, Rocky type story that they have clawed their way back. They are coming. They are delivering the games that everybody had given up on and said they're never going to make it. They're back. And now, finally, they're getting past those dark times and getting to push forward. Elf Creek Games has consistently the highest quality production board game, period, in the industry. You look at Merchants of the Dark Road. You look at Honey Buzz. You look at Paradox Initiative, which is coming soon as well. Oh my God, the art in that game. And so, Watches of Hickory Docks. I'm telling you right now, folks, this is going to turn heads, not only for its look, but for its gameplay. And if you're at Gencon, you'll get a chance to play it. Okay, so that's it. 20 games, folks. I did it. I have achieved my goal. Is there anything else I should talk about? Well, yes. In fact, there is, because I'm just getting started. After I'm done filming this and uploading it to YouTube, I'm going to probably spend 2 hours or so going through the entirety of the of that Gen Con preview I was talking about. Here it is. You can see I've actually got 87 games that are you could buy. Right, is that what I filtered by this as? Yeah, that are must-have or interested that I'm either I will have no matter what, or I'm really, really hot for. They're for sale. There are 87 games I want to talk about. I just talked about 10. And as you can see, let's see if I can keep scrolling this. What are you doing? What are you doing? Stop it. There we go. There's a lot more. I'm going to talk about all of these. This is going to take me a couple of hours easily. Why aren't you scrolling? There we go. So I'm just giving you a sneak peek of what's going to be in my latest Rahdo Rambles, which is a video exclusive I do every month for backers of the show. Either here on YouTube if you join as a member or over at patreon.com. So I'm going to dive deep. And not just on these 87 games, but I told you about one demoable game. How many other demos do I have to talk about? Filter. Forget about for sale. Tell me about demos. I also have, come on, apply, 43 games. So 42 additional games that I think are worth talking about. All of these. I guess if you want to, you can just play this in slow motion and see what they are. But if you want to hear why I'm excited about these, why I think they're worth demoing, well, there's a link down in the show notes, folks, for how you can support Rahdo Runs Through and help keep Rahdo running. Or boom, there it is right there on the screen. But anyway, that's it. I am done. Those are my top 20. Thanks as always, folks, for watching, and especially thanks to folks who support the show and keep Rahdo running. See you again for next year's Gen Con preview. Talk to you later. So long. Bye-bye.